Hello, my name is Andrew Collins and I'm a Telly addict. I'm not usually one for Midsomer Murders, partly because DCI Barnaby beat me into second place on Celebrity Mastermind. But I was shallow enough to tune into last week's episode, The Killings in Copenhagen. Can you guess why?
Vores gæster fra udlandet.
Tak. Vicepolitikommissær Birgitte Poulsen.
Nice to meet you. Mrs. Diaz Nelson.
Hej, kriminalassistent Anna Dein.
Hi. It's great to be here. I love your country. It's very beautiful.
The Whodunnit itself was typically silly, something to do with a secret formula at an improbable biscuit factory. But the ruse to hook up with two Danish detectives, played by Katrina from Borgen and Pernilla from The Killing, was sublime and pretty funny.
Nå, skal vi gå ned og få hils på vores engelske bobbies? Jeg vil ikke kalde dem bobbies. Jeg læste deres filer i går aftes. Kriminalkommissær Barnaby har stor erfaring.
They even cast Vaughn from The Killing, the actual murderer.
Sorry, I don't know that man.
What about Ingrid? Did you know him?
It was all a good deal of fun, and encouraging to see one of our police show cliches exported to Scandinavia. We identified this last year in Lewis. It's the trope, now, if you'll excuse me, Inspector, whereby suspects arrogantly walk away from police questioning.
No, because my sister tells me everything. So now, if you'll excuse me, I have to prepare for the evening service.
As genres atrophy into truism through familiarity, it gets harder to separate the real thing from parody. The talented writers of Peep Show, Fresh Meat and Four Lions, Sam Bain and Jesse Armstrong, underlined this with the heavily marketed pilot of their cop show spoof, Babylon, on Channel 4.
What we need to do is just tell them the truth.
Which is?
Well, the intel we have is mixed, but as yet, the facts don't yet suggest the shootings are linked.
Don't yet. And is the truth... Is that true?
Playing with two train sets at once, they send up the jargon of modern corporate life, a la the Thick a Bit, for which Armstrong wrote, and the armed response routines of Britcop action.
If we were down Cheshire way, you might see an LMT defender, but down here, if you're gonna mosh, it's a heckler and kosh.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Bit of that, and that's what we're joined for, eh? You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, well, show me a 19 officer who's ever pulled the trigger outside the firing range and I'll put him in a glass box and charge people 15 quid to look at him.
I have soft spots for all concerned, including parachuted in big-name film and extravaganza director Danny Boyle. And to watch all concerned, including a superb cast from James Nesbitt to Adam Deacon, tread the thin blue line between reality and heightened reality was sometimes as thrilling as a high-wire act. At other times, it was just 2012.
Liz, I'm not sure we're entirely comfortable with our officer being portrayed using the term scrote.
What is a scrote?
It's not too serious. Probably the nearest US equivalent would be maybe punk or dirtbag.
I mean, in a way, doesn't the fucking pig cancel out the scrote?
And the overarchingly arch tone strained to fill its rather opulent 74-minute running time. But I'm hoping the actual series, for which John Baird, the inventive director of Filth, aptly enough, takes over, will comprise standard hour-long episodes and be tighter as a result.
This is so reductive.
I'm concerned there's a news vacuum and what'll be used to fill it.
But the big question Babylon raised, with its well-researched writing and forensic lampoonery, was where now for sincere police drama?
We're looking at using anti-terror legislation to keep a lid on it.
You can't invite them to dinner and not serve pudding.
Because that wasn't a clip from Babylon, despicable me, it was from BBC Two's dead serious Line of Duty, the best returning British cop show since Between the Lines, with which it shares an internal affairs hook. The gang's back from Series 1, apart from the ones who got killed or banged up, obviously. Martin Compston's ostracised DS, his partner, dedicated DC, Vicky McClure, and their boss, Adrian Dunbar, an ex-RUC man like the boss in Between the Lines, as it happens.
This way.
In Series 1, creator Jed Mercurio, responsible for one of the best British medical dramas ever, Bodies, Lenny James was the detective with his hand in the till. This time round, based on the facts that we have in front of us at the moment, it's Keeley Hawes, and that can never be a bad thing.
You ever experienced anything like that before?
No, thankfully.
That's true, isn't it? Yeah, Denton, you've held down a lot of desk jobs. You're a bit of a backroom detective.
I believe I've done important work, sir.
Now, I'm steering clear of clips relating to what actually happened in episode 1 because if you didn't watch it, remedy that. It was important work, and one of the most hard-hitting first episodes of any non-pilot I've seen for a while.
There's been an attack on the police. 3 of our colleagues have lost their lives in the line of duty.
It all bodes well for the series, which won't have Babylon nipping round its heels. Interlude. Guess which popular British actor turned up in HBO's Looking on Sky Atlantic? Here's a clue.
Oh, I can't believe he has a Wikipedia page. I found him, here he is. This is kind of a really good picture of him. He doesn't normally look this good, but yeah, what do you think? You want to fuck him?
They always say that on Looking when they want to... Here's a bigger clue.
Would you have sex with him? Yeah. Really? With those ears? I mean, those ears are big.
It's Russell Tovey, and the show really suits him.
You're asking if I'm gay, aren't you?
Yes. I am. I am gay.
Okay. That's cool.
Talking of cool, or at least the total denial of cool as a legitimate criterion for assessing pop culture, here's another welcome vehicle for Danny Baker on BBC 4 after last year's great album showdown. Rockin Decades ran over 3 consecutive nights, with Baker and 3 chin-stroking cultural hoarders per show unpacking the 70s, 80s and 90s. The rules of the treehouse were clear: no apologies, no affectation, no snobbery.
You're precocious. Did you like stuff you shouldn't have liked? Were you ordering Sonny Rollins records?
Yeah. I don't understand. Well, I don't understand because you sound like a total dickhead.
No, that's why that's what we're like, us kind of people, and hopefully the audience too.
Guardian rock critic Alexis Petridis, who judged the tone perfectly in the one about the 90s.
Exactly. No, that's good, because I'm fed up with people, you know, who try and pretend this ain't tremendous fun. This is a free zone from all that sort of stuff.
Being of the correct vintage and temperament for Baker's riffs and refrains, and if you still wear a black armband for the loss of Word magazine, you'll be with me, I could listen to his greatest hits every night of the week. He certainly raises the standard of intellect, insight and drollery for music montages on a channel that runs very little else.
And the masters of this domain, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Just a band of wandering minstrels travelling the open road with a few basic requirements.
I particularly enjoyed his no-nonsense take on my own favourite rock movement.
You know, people who worry themselves about such things call the period following punk post-punk. Fair enough, no harm in that. Although as someone who was there, I remember we had a much catchier name for it. We called it 1978.
His irrepressibly jovial brand of verbal machine gun fire will not tickle everyone, and he's anything but an impartial facilitator of discussion. But he's not too big to defer to the youth in matters beyond his ken.
Let's not ignore the 300-pound gorilla in the corner of the room, as they say. I've never taken E, so I felt excluded from the plain ecstasy that the people there did. I could hear the music, this is great, but I was plainly not completely absorbed in it.
On one, as I used to say back in the day.
What did it do? What did it enhance there? Was it absolutely necessary?
So why didn't they make it 4 nights and do the 60s? Presumably because Danny didn't leave school until 1972 and his name's above the title. But here's why they didn't make it 4 nights and do the noughties.
Which brings us to today. What is rock music doing now? Well, listen. I can't hear a thing.
Discuss. It was Shark Week on BBC 4. Only joking. It was Old Music Week, as we live and breathe. Cue further confusion for seekers after the truth.
We were very serious, dedicated musicians. We weren't interested in a visual representation of what we were. We thought music spoke for itself. Brian obviously didn't.
This was The Life of Rock with Brian Pern, a spoof of what might ordinarily be sincere on BBC 4, written by Simon Day and Rhys Thomas and directed by Thomas. As a reminder, here's the real thing.
This was rock that had been through college, operating at a level above the common or garden boogie.
And here's the parody.
Keyboards, we have Mr. Tony Pebley.
It's Pebley with an acute, Huguenot. 16th century Protestant France, doesn't matter, bollocks. Anyway, it's Pebley. I remember going to Putney to see the Yardbirds and Long John Baldry. And you just couldn't move for twat.
Nigel Havers among a raft of prominent actors, comedians and musicians who buff up Life of Rock's credentials. Although a vehicle for Day, who launched Brian Pern on the BBC comedy website in 2010, this 3-part extension gives more rope to the supporting characters.
So we started with a hi-hat, so you come over here, and then we'll augment that with some toms, which are just here, 2 toms. And then if you come over here, we'll have another cymbal. We'll have a side cymbal.
We've got another chair.
Even though some of the digs are easy, they're always affectionate, and who would have noticed if this montage had gone out in a serious documentary on BBC 4?
At these festivals, as people plugged in, they also plugged on to something else. LSD. But for every up, there came a down.
Here's your moment of zen.